Hi, students of business and professional writing. This is the Unit 3 video lecture, and this is intended to cover everything important in the assigned reading for this week, and that is chapter 6 and 7 in the textbook, and then 5 tips on emailing. So if you are not able to, hang on, there's something on my screen. If you are not able to complete the assigned reading, this is intended to serve as, I guess, a substitute. And even if you can do the assigned reading, this is good to watch because it helps to reinforce the key concepts from the assigned reading. So let's get started. So chapter 6 deals with emails, memos, and letters. And I'm going to go over some of the qualities of memos. I'm going to do it, I don't want to say quickly, but I'm going to try to be, I'm going to try to be efficient because the assignment for this week is that you write an email. So I'll give you more information on email because I think that will be more helpful to you. But from chapter 6, sorry, I just have to find the page. Give me 1 second. Chapter 6, starting with letters, memos, and emails. None of these follow set rules. There are gray areas for all of these forms of correspondence. But there are some rules that you can generally count on, and these can help you to achieve consistency, and they can also help you to keep your sanity when trying to keep track of all of these different forms of correspondence and the formatting. So for letters, full block format is pretty much the standard. So again, professional letters tend to be written in full block format all the time. The subject line tends to, you might be wondering, does that go before or after the salutation? Tends to go after, and the salutation, of course, is the part that says dear. And let's see, you might be wondering, should the subject line say SU or subject, or should it be written as RE, which is short RE, which of course is short for regarding? And the textbook tells us that subject looks more professional. So if you are ever in the habit of putting RE in your subject line instead of subject, you should stop that. Using subject is actually more professional, and it is preferred. Now, going forward with memos, there are many other gray areas, but I am going to give you some more characteristics of memos. So most memos are formatted the same as emails because emails are electronic memos. Memos are internal documents. That means they are sent within an organization or a company, typically between people who know one another and who know each other's titles. Memos can be exchanged between people who are equal or have positions of about similar rank, but they can also be sent between an employee and a superior. Memos tend to be short and to the point. Anything longer than a page would be included in either an enclosure or an attachment. An enclosure is used when an actual physical paper memo is sent, and an attachment, of course, is used in the case of an email or an electronic memo. Let's see. Most memos today are sent again in electronic form as emails, with a paper copy also sent just to create a physical record that can go on file, but again, that's purely for the sake of creating a physical record. And a professional memo typically has company letterhead. And then after the company letterhead, the format would be there's a to line, a from line, a subject line, and a date line. And that is typically how a memo goes. The subject line It's okay if the words in the subject line are written in lowercase. It's only the first word of the subject line that would be capitalized, and of course, any proper nouns. And then there is no period at the end of the subject line. So emails and memos may also have a line for BCC, which means blind copy, carbon copy, or CC, which means carbon copy. If you see CC in an email or a memo, it's saying that a copy is being sent to someone else, and typically the name of the person that the email or memo is being sent to follows. And then BCC is used to indicate that a copy of this memo or email is being sent to someone whose name does not appear. So more about memos. Memos are, the writing style of memos is typically informal unless the memo is going to someone, from someone to someone who is higher up in the chain. Memos are frequently, any summaries that appear in memos tend to be bulleted, and either they can be numbered, but you definitely want to bullet any summaries in memos. Why? Because doing that, providing any summarized information in bullet form, makes it more reader friendly. Unlike a letter, a memo does not end with yours truly or sincerely. It doesn't need a formal closing or a formal, it doesn't need a formal closing like that. A memo typically ends with a courteous sentence stating the action that the writer would like taken. A memo may contain, and again, additional information as an enclosure or attachment anytime the memo might need to be more than a page in length. So basically, if a memo cannot be a page in length, it's too long. And if there is any information that's deemed so important that it must be sent and that does go over a page, that would go into either an enclosure or an attachment. In the case of a physical paper memo, we would have an enclosure, and in the case of an email, that would be an attachment. So emails, now I'm sure the memos, I'm sorry if that wasn't riveting or if it was hard maybe to follow, because most of us don't really write memos. But emails are something that we all use. So this is important. This you're going to want to pay attention to, because if you're like, well, most people today, you probably write a number of emails every day. You may write some, for example, if you're in school, you probably write a few to your professors and maybe to some classmates, and you may have to reach out to the registrar's office or to financial aid. And then if you have a job, you probably also send emails for your job, and then you probably also need to send some for your personal life. So most people send up to about 10 emails a day. I know that I do, and that would be for and if I stop and think about all the emails I send for my job, it would probably go up to about 20. So email is important, not just for work, but well, there are many reasons you might want to send an email. So the bottom line is you want to be able to write an email that is persuasive and that gets the reaction from the reader that you want. So how can we do that? First, I'm going to just give you a quick rundown of some of the general rules that the textbook provides. But what I think is more helpful is the Harvard 5 tips on email, which I'm also going to go over. So some information from chapter 7 in the textbook on emails and writing proper email. An email, again, is basically an electronic memo, and the purpose of an email in business or in a professional setting is to make information as clear and concise as possible. Let's see. So that's something that's important that we want to remember. You want to make information as clear and concise as possible. Something else that's really important to remember about email is that email is wonderful. You can send a message to someone on the other side of the world for no cost in a matter of seconds. So there is nothing that rivals email when it comes to efficiency and speed and convenience. But the thing about email is that it leaves a trail, and it's much, how can I say, it's much easier to get caught saying something that you're not supposed to say in email. So the rule for email, and also for memos and for letters, is not to write anything that you wouldn't want published on the front page of a newspaper. So how can you judge if something you're putting into an email is inappropriate? Ask yourself, would you be embarrassed if this was going to be published on the first page, the front page of a newspaper? And if the answer is yes, that you would be embarrassed, you should not put that information in an email, and that is the general rule. So it's important to remember that emails are not private. Because emails are sent out electronically via the internet, in theory, anyone can read an email. So it's key to always remember that. I'll give you an example. In 2005, the CEO of Boeing was fired after emails revealing the details of his extramarital affair with a colleague were leaked. The CEO wasn't fired because he violated any company policy. He was fired because of the graphic nature of his emails, and it was said that they called his character into question. And if his character couldn't be, if they couldn't be sure of his character, how could his colleagues and business partners, how could they count on his decision-making ability if they aren't sure of his character? So his actions in this case, and again, that was sending messages to a colleague who he was having an affair with, these reflected badly on Boeing's reputation, and the CEO was fired. And every week, if you think, I can't think of a scandal in the media right now, but it seems like every other week, or very frequently in the news or in tabloids, we hear about something that has been leaked in the media, some new scandal. Oh, well, this isn't with email, but you may have seen recently the CEO who was at the Coldplay concert. So I forget the company that he worked for, but the CEO of this company is at a concert, a Coldplay concert, with a woman, not his wife, that he's having an affair with. And the kiss cam pans over to them, and you see he's behind the woman and he's holding her, and they see themselves on the kiss cam. It's really horrible because they separate, and they drop each other and sort of try to get away from the camera, and it just is horrible. Just imagining how their spouses would feel, and then also imagining how it feels to be dropped like a hot potato, or like something really horrible, because the camera is on you. But so the point is, technology is everywhere, and it definitely it's, whether we realize it or not, it's changing all our lives in ways that we can never even really know or be certain of. So not to be preachy, but going back to the case of the CEO, it's really important that the way you conduct yourself doesn't reflect poorly on your professional organization, because that's something that will hurt you. So anyway, email, again, is not private. Because it is sent out electronically, anyone can read it. So that's something you should always remember. Do not, oh, sorry, I already said that. Another good rule of thumb for email is to never send personal emails from your work email. Most companies actually have IT people who go through all employee emails looking for personal emails and also anything inappropriate. So a good rule is to not send any personal emails from your company email address, even if it's something to your mom or your partner, like get me a loaf of bread. It's just better not to use email for personal reasons. Let's see. Oh, another piece of good advice is to never write an email in anger and then send it, because it may feel great in the moment, but there's a good chance the next day it won't. You'll feel more regret. So a good rule of thumb is, if you're feeling angry or emotional, don't send an email. Wait 24 hours. So here are some do's and don'ts for emails. First, in terms of length, emails are not intended to be long. They're intended to be short. Remember, they're electronic memos and they should be read on a computer screen without any scrolling, okay? So again, if you're wondering the ideal length of an email, the person should be able to read it on a computer screen without doing any scrolling. So if your email is longer than that, it's too long. And you want to try to shorten it, because what is the purpose of email? To send information as effectively and as concisely as possible. Let's see. Oh, if there is material that needs to be sent that exceeds a page, you would put it in an attachment. In a professional setting, email is about transferring information quickly and efficiently. Writing that is concise and efficient is the best writing for email, but it's also not easy to write that way. It is said that it's harder to write efficiently, to write something short than to write something long, because when you do write efficiently, you have to really make every word count. So how can you, what are some tips to write more efficiently? Use precise, specific language, cut repetitive language, and cut anything wordy. So I'll give you an example of precise language. Now, I can say to you, I drive a car. That's not very precise, and it doesn't really give you much information. But I can also say, I drive a 2025 Jeep Cherokee. That is an example of precise language. You're making every word count, and you're giving your reader a decent amount of information. An example of repetitive language, let's see, would be, please return the stapler to me after you have used it. You don't really need to say all that. You could just say, please return the stapler to me. Or something like, please return the stapler back to me after you have used it. You don't need to say return and back to me. So just be on the lookout for anything repetitive. And then something else you also want to be on the lookout for is anything that is wordy. What is wordy? I'll give you an example. I often see students write, in today's day and age. That's wordy. It's much more efficient to just write today. So again, in today's day and age, everyone sends email. That's very wordy. You just want to say, today, everyone sends email. Okay. So some more guidelines for keeping your email short. Consider the needs of your audience. How can you do that? Well, you want to be courteous and complete. What does it mean to be complete? It means that everything your recipient needs to know is in this one email. So you're going to include all of the information the person needs to make a decision or to take the action that you desire that person or them to take. You're going to include all of the information they need, okay? And doing that means that you're being courteous and you're also being complete. Complete. Now, you want to keep the email short. Let's see. You want to remember that the recipient might receive anywhere from like tens of 20, 30, 40, 50, even hundreds of emails a day. So by keeping your email short, you're being courteous and respectful of their time, and you don't want to ask more than one computer screen, so you don't want to ask any scrolling. And then another thing you can do, this is super important, this may be one of the most important things you can do when you send an email, is create an effective subject line. So you never want to leave a subject line blank, and you want your subject line to be specific, precise, and accurate. Something else that you can do to be helpful, if there is an action you want the reader to take, you can state it in the subject line. And you could say, for example, let's say you're sending an email about a meeting that has been canceled. The subject could be today's meeting canceled. And let's say there's an action that needs to be taken. The meeting has been canceled, and so everyone has to mail in their report. You could say today's meeting has been canceled, action required. And that just lets the reader know that not only has the meeting been canceled, but the meeting has been canceled and they also have to take some type of action. Let's see. So another thing you can do to make your emails more reader friendly is separate each paragraph with a space. So a white space between each paragraph. You can also use lists wherever possible and appropriate. Again, be sure the email is complete, that it contains all relevant information. Do not force the recipient to send you another email asking a question. And then also, it's very important that you use uppercase and lowercase in the traditional sense. Sending emails that are not with anything that's not properly capitalized isn't cute. It's seen as unprofessional, and it's super important that you show professionalism in all cases. Now, that also means that you always proofread your email for careless errors and typos, because even one careless error or grammatical error or typo can send the wrong message. It can send a message that you don't really care, or that you're not careful, and that doesn't reflect well on you. So it's important to always proofread your and you can't count on spell check. Spell check can miss many things, because it's possible that maybe your error still spells a word that is a word, but it's just not the word that you want to use. So don't rely on spell check. It's very important to always proofread. Do not use all caps. I don't know if you know this. I actually, when I was in graduate school about 10 years ago, I didn't know that. And I sent one of my favorite professors an email, and I don't remember why I was sending it to her, but I put everything in all caps. And then she told me that when you do that, it's like you're yelling at someone. So thank God she told me that, because then I had apologized to her and never did it again. But if you didn't know, you should never send an email with anything in all caps, because when you do that, it is like you are yelling at the reader. Let's see, what else? Oh, you should be sure that your email address is respectable. For example, let's say your high school email address was like hotgirl@gmail or partyboy25. You don't want an email address like that once you enter into your professional life. So please make sure that you have a professional email address. And then lastly, this is about email chains. You want to keep the e-trail short. And it says the general rule is that if there are 3 messages already, you should start a new chain. And then lastly, this really is my last tip for writing a good email that is professional and courteous. You always want to use a salutation. And by that, I mean like hi, hello, dear. It's very important to use a salutation or greeting at the beginning of an email. I can't tell you how many times I'll receive an email and the person sending it doesn't say hello to me. They just start in, I need you to do blah, blah, blah for me, or I want to take this class. Can you help me register? And it just feels really rude. And I'm sure the person writing it doesn't mean to be rude, but that's just how it feels. So, and then you also want to use a closing, such as regards or sincerely or best wishes. Okay. Oh gosh. Sorry. Hang on a second. That was my door. Hello? Okay, sorry. So now we're entering the home stretch of this lecture, shouldn't be more than 3 more minutes. This part now is addressing the Harvard Business Review's 5 tips for writing professional emails. So let's see. The first tip is that before you write an email, you should ask yourself, what is my desired outcome? What do I want the recipient to do? And you should have that fresh in your mind, because everything in the email should serve that purpose. You don't want anything extraneous. The second tip, edit the recipient list. Carefully select the people that need to receive this email and ask yourself, who do you really need to achieve your desired outcome? Just make sure you're not sending it to anyone who doesn't need to receive it. The third tip, tailor your subject line. Remember I said a few minutes ago that the subject line is one of the most important aspects of your email. So again, you want your subject line to be accurate and as informative as possible. Never leave a subject line blank, and always use it to be informative. And if there's an action you want the reader to take, say that in the subject line. The fourth step, craft your message with writing that is clear and to the point. So before sending an email, just go through it. And if there is any writing that you don't need, that is repetitive, that is extraneous, get it out of there. And the last tip is specify the timeline. Now, what does that mean? If there's a desired action that you want the recipient to take, let's say you're in the human resources department of a company and you need the employees to send you a new headshot for the employee database or something, and you need all the employees to send this headshot by Friday. So you're not just going to say, oh, send me your headshot, but you also want to say, please send it by this Friday, July 25th. So again, if there is a desired action, if you want the recipients of your email to do something, state the timeline. When do you want them to do it by? What is the deadline? If there is no deadline, then say that. Okay, so thank you for watching. I know it's been 27 minutes. I'm sure you're, well, okay, anyway, I hope this was helpful, and happy Monday. Have a great week.